Hi, my name is JL, and I've been a Jesus musician since the early days of Jesus music, before the days of contemporary Christian music, even. And I remember going back, we were not trying to be a part of an industry particularly, we were just trying to tell people about Christ. This is still the motivation, and the industry hasn't changed much. I mean, we've got a whole group of people who sort of built a Christian industry out of things, and I was just never really a part of that, in spite of being a part of an awful lot of recording projects. I mean, I've got over 100 albums under my belt in some way or another, involvement somehow. But all of that doesn't really matter. The point is that in the early days, we were faced with being barred from radio, being barred from concert halls, being barred from different places to play. We played everywhere we could. We played at things like backyard pool parties and crazy stuff, street corners, and everything we could, because the goal was to preach Christ, not to gain some sort of stage. In the meantime, we faced our battles with, like I say, with radio and other industry gatekeepers who wanted to keep us away from and to keep our message out of the mainstream. And so, having looked at all of that as the background, we find that today we're barred by the same kinds of things. We have government agencies coming against us simply because they don't want us to put a crowd together, because we live in a COVID age and we are instructed not to assemble together, which is contrary to what God has to say. And God wants us to be in the public eye. And so now I'm reaching out via technology through this process. But we've never quit. We've basically been involved in records for years and years, and we continue to do that. And God continues to give me songs. I've written approximately 3,000 songs. And that's a lot. And it's difficult as a writer to write another song when you look at the group of songs that you put out so far and you say, but who's going to listen to this? I mean, even with all the records I've done, none of them have sold a million copies. I did have one song picked up that went by somebody else who totally changed the concept of it, really, and in a good way. But they didn't have my message at their heart. It wasn't a song that fit contextually into a bigger picture, is the way I usually write. And I design albums like I write books. You do them a chapter at a time. You don't try to tell the whole story in one song, and you don't try to write the whole book into one chapter. So that's the approach that I have as an artist. And so if you take segments or you take something out of my material, you can get a whole wrong impression. But I had one song selected kind of that way and then put out, and it went platinum somewhere overseas. I don't know. Anyway, but beyond that, I don't have much to show for a career. It's not really a career. It's more of a calling. And it still is. And so whether government is coming against me or the gatekeepers are coming against me or anything else, it doesn't really matter so long as I'm being obedient. So the size of my audience doesn't matter to me so much as it matters to God. He is the one determining whether or not something gains in popularity or something, gets a wider audience. And even if it's for one person, my goal has always been just be faithful to what God's doing. God took Philip out of a amazing evangelistic opportunity and put him in the middle of a desert where he talked to one guy who was a eunuch from the kingdom of Ethiopia who was traveling back from Jerusalem, reading Isaiah. And he stopped him from this great big huge reach of a ministry to go to this one guy. Well, that one guy went on to evangelize a whole continent. And as a result, we know that God's purposes were fulfilled. And Philip's job was to be obedient, not to say, God, why did you take me off this platform where I was reaching thousands of people for you, or hundreds, or whatever he was preaching to, I don't know. But the fact is that we tend to look at the human results. We tend to think that God is missing the opportunity if he doesn't give us this huge audience. I never looked at it that way. I looked at it as, God gave me a gift. I write a song. And there was one time in my life in particular where this became very, very obvious. I'd written a song that was very evangelical and very specific about a circumstance. It was about a woman trying to commit suicide because she felt that her life was over, essentially. And the tagline was, "Ain't it funny when you've nothing left, you can throw something away." And God wants us to give it away, not to throw it away. And He wants it. That's what that song's all about. And I had no sooner finished writing that song than there was a knock on my front door. And in responding to that knock, unbelievable how things unfolded, but I was face to face with someone who had just been talked off the bridge. So I know that God is able to do those kinds of things. And that song never got recorded, never got put in an album, but that song had a specific ministry purpose. And so I am not at all unhappy with the fate of that song, if you will. It just wasn't meant for the recording audience, perhaps. And who knows, maybe God will someday open up a way forward for that to go forward. But it didn't happen then, and it hasn't happened for years. And that was close to probably 40 years ago. And so I look at things and I realize that God has His purposes and we have ours. And today I continue. God has given me songs concerning the pandemic. God has given me an urgency to get these out. And so I'm appealing for some help, because ultimately, if you haven't had a great successful career, you don't have a lot of people lining up to hand you money to do things, even if God is directing you to do them. And the appeal I'm making is not because I want you just to reach in your pocket and give me something out of either pity because I never made it, or because I've got this project that's so urgent for me to get out. The real truth is, this is God's message and God's timing, and God will lay it on your heart to give something or not to see this go forward. We had prepared for this. We did a good job even in pre-budgeting and taking money from the sales of records and books and other things that I've created and channeling it this way for this purpose, only to find that Satan is very active with his roadblocks. And so we've had all kinds of interference with trying to record this, which gives us a real sense that God gave us a very clear green light in providing for us up front that we were to start this project, and we thought we had enough to finish the project. At this point, we realized that because of delays and things, that roadblocks that Satan's put up that we couldn't have anticipated, we've gone into cost overruns. And so I'm looking for some help. And that's the reason for this video today. I want you to understand this, and I'm looking more for prayer partners than I am for financial contributors, because I know this, that if you're praying for us, God will put it on your heart, if He wants to be financially a part of what we're doing. So it's less of an appeal for money as it is an appeal for people to stand with us in ministry and to stand with us in prayer and to say, God, what do you want me to do? Because as much as it's important for us to be obedient, it's important for you to be obedient. So I'm encouraging you to ask God what to do and to then become our partners in some way. And so whether that's praying for us so that God moves other people to give, or whether it means He's moving you to give, or however that works out, we're happy with whatever He decides. And we are going to finish this project, but we've hit delays and we've hit problems, and money is now one of those problems that we have to address. And so we're doing it. And as a result, I'm putting this forward for you to consider doing. There's always needs, and there's always ongoing ministry. In other words, just giving to one project is something we perhaps need, but also we need to continue. We need to be able to take this message and promote it, and to do, there's ways to spend money on recording, there's other ways to spend money on promotion, there's other ways to simply be able to go where people don't have anything and help And if God moves you to help us go and minister, then that's wonderful too. So there's ongoing needs, and there's putting a number on it. I can give you the number for finishing the recording the way we've started it and how it's going to go, and that's only about $3,000. But everything else that comes after that, there are people involved and livelihoods on the line, and people losing jobs over COVID who are contributors to us, who have to either stop contributing, or the money has to come from somewhere to keep them alive, just to be able to continue what we're doing. And so we look at all these things and we ask God, do we pay somebody a salary? Do we not? What do we do? So we're asking God, and as a result, we want you to do the same. If you will help us with praying that God will help us determine what our future is to be, how it's to go forward, and what part you have to play in it. We love you, and we're glad you're with us. And I hope this motivates you to join our prayer team at the very least of, and yet it happens to be the most. So please do that, okay? Pray with us. We just thank you, and we thank God for you. Love you. We'll see you later.